Hi guys, so today I have Diamond Press's new Slimline window set to share with you. So these items were sent free of charge from my review, and of course all opinions are my own. And any links in the description box will be affiliate links, which means I'll make a small commission for your purchased items to those links. Of course, with Diamond Press, it is an affiliate code. The code is VCDP, and right now until 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, May 31st, you can use that code to get 30% off your purchase. And if you tuned in yesterday, you saw the live premiere of some of the new launches that they brought along with that sale code. And right now, so thank you so much, Diamond Press, for the generosity and just support and being so awesome always. So I went through this already in that video. I'll link in the description box in case you want to check that out. But today we're just going to get right to it. So on the Slimline window, as I had discussed in the other video here, we have a stencil, or like a template basically, that's going to help you place your stamps. And as you see, there are all these different stamps that you can do like little backgrounds with. There's the butterflies. Let me put this piece of paper, maybe you can see a little better. Flowers, the little branch, and then you can put your little birds on the branch. There's sentiments on here. These cute little telephones, which are just super adorable. Quote bubbles. I mean, all these different things you can pop into these little areas that you can see through with this Slimline window die. So let me pop this off here just right quick. Oh, you know what? I don't even know that I mentioned in the last video that little banner because it cuts the sentiments too. These other sentiments that are kind of curved. What I want to do really quickly is measure this die. I believe it is going to cut like 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's 3 1/4 inches wide and 8 1/4 in the other direction. So you can mat this onto a standard Slimline. What I consider standard is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2. They are saying at the beginning to go ahead and get yourself a card base that is 3 1/2 by 8 1/2. And then to stamp right on the card base. And you can definitely do that if you'd like to. Usually I stamp on something else and then adhere that to the card base. So I do have a piece of paper here, 3 1/2 by 8 1/2. It's just a sturdy piece of white cardstock. If I was going to be coloring today, I would make sure that this is the kind of paper that you could color on. You can't just use alcohol ink markers on any kind of paper because it'll bleed through or it'll spread out or just it's a feather. It's just not a good look. So you want to make sure it's marker paper or papers that take watercolor, whatever it is that you're going to use, whatever medium. Make sure the paper is for that. Today I'm just going to be stamping, I believe, so this is just some heavyweight cardstock. And I'm probably going to trim this down. So this would cover the whole top of a 3 1/2 by 8 1/2 inch Slimline. I want this to be more of a matted thing, so this is on there, and then in the background I'll have like the color of my card base, which I don't know what color I want to use yet because I haven't made my project yet, so I'm going to wait on that. Even on the frame. So this first step I'm kind of skipping over until later, other than having my paper that I'm going to stamp on. Again, you can stamp right on your card base as they're recommending. But let me put these things to the side for just a second because I am going to trim this down. So like I said, it is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2, but I'm going to trim it down to 8 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then stamp on that and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to take a moment to do that. Nope. And I'll be right back. So I have that trimmed down. We have our stencil. And I just grabbed the Jeweled Summer ink pads just to make a really bright card. And we're going to just do a lot of stamping with like the background images, maybe pop some flowers and butterflies in there and go from there. So I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to stamp on the stamping mat now. That means I'm just going to stamp and then leave it at that because obviously I can't really like precision stamp over it again. So I'm just placing the little stencil here. So I'm going to make sure that when I stamp, it's going through. And what I mean by that, we'll talk about that when I get there, I guess. So I do want to get this a little bit lower. I'm sorry, it's probably going to be at the bottom third here of your what you're looking at because I want to make sure I have it where I need it. So I'm placing that there. I am going to tape this down just with some washi or something like that. Let me see here. We'll use this one. So let me set that up. I'm going to grab a few ink colors that I would like to use and we'll get that going. So I'm just going to put that down. I'm not going to stick down the paper and then stick down the stencil. I'm just going to stick them down both at the same time. I think that'll be okay. It shouldn't move, especially with this stamping mat under here. It kind of holds on to it. I'll be right back. I chose a few colors that are ready to go here. And then whenever I stamp something like this, I always like to, and I always forget my own tip here, but get a stamping block or whatever it is that's about the same size as what you're stamping because it just makes it a little easier for you to kind of manipulate and see what you're doing. So all I'm going to do is take these background stamps for now. And I chose just a few colors there, and we will get going. Oh, this is so funny. I was like, what colors am I going to use? I'm like, okay, pink. And of course this one was pink. And I'll probably use the teal color for this one and probably use the yellow for that one. Because that's just how it works out. So anyhow, so let's ink this up. And of course you want to ink it up really nicely because we're not going to have a chance to stamp it again. Get it going, bring it right over, looking through, and just stamp it down. And I'm pushing down, making sure that it's making contact where I need it to. And it has a little bleed over on the stencil because that way when you stamped, you are for sure stamping the whole area, right? So I love that it's a little bit larger than the actual hole, so you're really getting a good whole image. So I'm going to take this and do a couple more, okay? And I will be right back, and then we'll go with the yellow and the blue. Okay guys, so I did the pink. And now I will go over and I'm going to go with the teal one because that color's more bright. I just want to see kind of where the placement is. And I'm doing this randomly, so I'm just going to grab that. And, you know, maybe here and here. We'll see. So again, just dab, dab, dab. Placing it there. Pushing down, and what happens is as you push it, you can see when it makes contact with the paper because the color looks different. So if you're not actually touching it, it'll just look kind of more translucent, but once you really hit the paper, you'll see that the color kind of becomes more vibrant. So that way you know that you aren't leaving a gap or a spot, you know? So I'll be right back. I'm going to stamp, stamp, stamp a few more. Okay, so my blue is done. You will have some overstamping. Of course, this is water-based ink, so it will look... You know, if I was to rub this with my finger, I'm not going to do that because you don't want to rub it into like the next section, but just be aware of that. And then here we have the little yellow dots. So I just realized I totally made a pattern. I wasn't even trying to do that because of the way I went like this. It just made sense when I put that one there. You know, where else am I going to stamp a stripe when I was thinking about here, but then I put it here and then it just made sense to put the last two here. So sometimes these things just pull together. Of course, I'm using 3 of the 4 designs, and there are 10 spaces, so you know, whatever it is that you want to do, any combination of those is great. So we have our little yellow dots, and I'll pop it right here. Again, just making sure I'm really pushing down. The stamping mat helps push back up towards me, and look at those little dots. So I'm gonna put 2 more here, and I'll be right back. So I just finished those, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the stencil because the next part I can see exactly where we stamped, so we know where everything is. I'm just going to stamp randomly the butterflies and maybe some flowers, just kind of like what's going on here. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to remove this first. I'll go rinse this off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this up a little bit here. And so again, we already know what these things are, and what I can do is just stamp things as I would like at this point. So I have this little guy. I'm just gonna stamp with some VersaFine ink. I like that ink for like detailed stamps. And you know, and you can stamp off the edge because that our little window frame is just going to show some of that, right, as this is on here. So you'll see some of the different little items there, and they don't have to be perfectly in one square like I did that one. And let's say we have this pretty little guy. And let's say we put him like here. Okay, so it'll just kind of be there. And I think I'm gonna put one more flower down here, and then I'm gonna put some butterflies up at the top. And let's see. This one's a little bit different. Making sure it's all loaded up. And maybe like right in here. So just a piece of that one's gonna be showing really. And ooh, yeah, a couple butterflies. And these have a lot more, you know, they're not just a thin line, they have this edge on them. And I'm just going with black, just, I like the look of that. So let's say we're going to put our sentiment like in here. So I'm just kind of minding that. Let's say this goes this way. So it's taking up a few little spaces. There it is. I'm telling you, the stamping mat, when you're just going for it, is your best friend. Because that little rubber kind of pushes back at you as you're stamping, so it helps ensure that you don't really have gaps. Even if you have a bubble, because you know I'm always talking about the bubbles that you might get under your acrylic stamps like right now, or any stamp that needs a mount like this. See the little bubble? Sometimes if you're using a precision press, that just won't go away and it's like impossible to stamp through it. So you got to really make sure you don't have bubbles. But this guy is pushing up against you in a way that kind of mitigates that issue. Okay. And I think I'll just put this guy there. So pretty. Try to think what color I want my frame to be. Oh, missed a little spot right there, but you know what? Actually, I'll finish it off. I'll show you one thing. Let me go grab a pen. I'll be right back. What you can do is grab yourself a Micron pen. They are archival ink, and they work great. This happens to be a 05. It doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to finish this right quick. So basically where you think this was going to be coming into here. And to be honest, it'll mix in. It won't be the biggest deal. But I just want to show you how sometimes I finish off something that didn't quite get stamped. And then that guy goes that way. Alright, looks good to me. Okay, let me grab, well, clean these guys off, and I'm going to grab what I would like to cut this with, and then a card base, and we'll finish it up with a sentiment. Okay, so, I grabbed some papers for these bits here. So, this is actually A4 size paper. It's really shiny silver paper. I thought it would be really fun for the frame. Totally different than I was even thinking, so I thought this would be pretty cool with a black card base. With some of that black, like the stamping. I just think it's going to look crisp. So this was A4 size paper. Of course, you can put this across this way, but A4 size paper is already 8 1/4 inches wide, so you might want to give yourself a little space. So what I did was cut it 3 1/2 inches the other way, and I'm going to run this through. And I have this extra piece I can, you know, cut it off, do something else with. And then this guy is my card base, which again was from A4 size paper. And you can't get the 8 1/2 by 3 1/2 if you just cut it in one direction. So this one you definitely have to cut, you know, 7 inches on the 8 1/4 side, and then 8 1/2 inches on the other side. So on the 7-inch side, I'm going to score it at 3 1/2. So I'll have my 3 1/2 by 8 1/2 inch card base. I'll be right back. Hey guys, so our little frame, all these little squares popped out. They're perfect little squares you can use for another application. Maybe make an inchy, like if you want to do an inchy base off that. If you remember what inchies were, we would take little inch squares and decorate them and use them as little decorative pieces here and there. Now I'm going to place this on here, and since I did my background card black, you can definitely see the white edge if it's off even just a little bit, so because of course I cut it myself right initially. That looks pretty good, but I'm going to trim a little bit off this white edge and a little bit off in the other direction. That way it'll just matte right in here really nicely. So I'm just going to take the smallest amount off. Okay, I'll be right back. So it was just that little bit in that one direction. So I'm just going to glue this down directly. Now this is a perfect base for a shaker. I mean, look how thick these little edges are, that you can definitely get your foam in there. But for now, I'm just going to glue this down, and I'll probably pop up my sentiment. If you're going to do a shaker, of course, you would cut yourself a piece of acetate to layer behind this that is, you know, roughly 8 1/4 by 3 1/4. But right now I'm just going to put a little glue, again, not too much, because I'm working with a metallic paper. Someone had mentioned sometimes you want to use fabric glue and something like that if you use metallic paper because it has less water in it than a typical glue. But I just use a little bit less is all I do. So as I place this, I'm going to look and make sure that it is where it needs to be. Especially with the glue that I use, it sets up really fast. So I'm not pushing down quite yet. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to let that set up, and I'll be right back. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue this down onto here. You can definitely mat this over if you have any other dies that are more of an 8 1/2 by 3 1/2 mat, you know. That'd be really cute, I think, with like little scallop look around it or something like that. But look at that. Love that silver, it just pops so nice. Okay, and I'm just splitting the difference. It might be hard for you to see because my mat is black and this is also black. But I'm going to hold that down for a second, and when I come back, we'll stamp and cut a sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side for a second. And I'm going to take, I mean, these are so cute, like the, I just called to say, you know, to go along with your little speech bubbles and things. Just to give you an idea, like the speech bubble you can kind of pop in here or there, wherever it is, with your little telephones that fit in there. Of course, they're made to do that, so of course. Let's see here. Do hello, my friend. And again, I'm just going to go for it, so I'm going to bring my mat real quick. And does it fit on this block? No. Let's grab a different block. And again, if you use a precision press, you know, go for it. And I'm just going to stamp on this now. This is a little bit dangerous because this is a little bit slick. It's kind of like a pearlescent paper, so generally I use a stamping press or a platform for that, but I'm just going to go for it, and if I have to do it again, I'll just do it again. And I'll do it like in this area, pushing down, not super hard, just to make sure I'm making contact, and there it is. I'm going to let that dry because it is VersaFine ink and it does take a minute to dry. You can also heat emboss it to make it dry faster. But once I feel like it's dry enough, let me take this over here. I'm going to take this little guy and just eyeball where I'm at, pretty much like right there. Tape it down here and run it through, okay? I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, so cute. And again, you can drop shadow this, and all that means is cutting out the same little banner die in another color that you like, and then just, you know, glue them together so you see a little color of the other die cut that you create peeking out there. I'm just going to pop some dimensional adhesives on this, and I'm going to leave it just like that. Sometimes I like to give things a little curve where you kind of give it a zhuzh so it's kind of curved like this, and all you do is put flat glue, you know, just regular glue there, put a little dimensional so it kind of pops it up for you. Alright, now I'm just leaving it like this. Oh, I should probably addition it first before I take the carriers off, but oh well, there we go. So again, I mean, this can go anywhere. I was going to put it in the center, but you can place this. That looks cute there. It looks cute wherever it is you want to place it. So I'll pop it right here. I'm just kind of eyeballing, splitting the difference here and here. It's so funny because it covers that block, so it looks like a rectangle right there. But I think that's good to go. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, for commenting, for watching, for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And yeah, so I just can't thank you guys enough. Thank you so, so much for all the support. Diamond Press for always being so amazing, supportive. And again, not just for me, their customer service I always hear from you guys is amazing and wonderful and responsive and everything else you need. So I really appreciate it. Remember, 30% off ends at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, May 31st, 2022. I'll have all that info in the description box. They'll have some images coming up, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye now.